Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in this video today, we are going to be talking about Byron Leftwich, who has been on Bucs fans' minds for many weeks now, pretty much a month and a half. I mean, you can really take it as far back as the Bears game, the Saints game in week 1, or even last year. I know some fans were talking about Byron Leftwich, and there's a lot of criticism thrown towards Byron Leftwich's way as an offensive coordinator and as an offensive play caller. I've seen people compare him to Dirk Cutter. I've seen people say that, his deep passing game is just not what suits Tom Brady and all these other different types of things. He doesn't run the ball enough. He doesn't have situational offense down. All these different types of things. He doesn't utilize offensive players enough. The guys that he has, many different types of criticisms have been thrown at the way of Byron Leftwich, and I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but I'm going to try and reduce it down to one simple question, and that is, should Byron Leftwich be the Buccaneers play caller for the remainder of the season on offense? And yeah, that's a tricky question. Well, that's not really a tricky question to answer, but let's just start talking about, some of the things that have gone right for Byron Leftwich, and then we'll talk about some of the things that have gone wrong. So, in all fairness, the Buccaneers are 7-5. They have as many wins this year as they did last year, and they're not even done the season. And there have been games where the Buccaneers offense looks great. I'm thinking about games like the Carolina Panthers, like the Las Vegas Raiders, like the Green Bay Packers, like a little bit like the Los Angeles Chargers game, among maybe one or two other games where they have been very solid, pretty much from the jump, minus maybe the first quarter. The second quarter on, the offense has looked very good. A lot of pieces were getting involved, and everything seemed to be humming along pretty well. Besides that, there's some other stat lines that have been really impressive so far this year. Tom Brady, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Mike Evans, I believe, has 10 touchdowns on the year. Ronald Jones is going to have 1,000 rushing yards on the year. There's a lot of positives. I even think that the offensive line is playing better than they did last year. So overall, there are some positives to take away from Byron Leftwich's offensive coordinator. The quarterback position is better. That's obviously can be because of Tom Brady, but Ronald Jones is playing better. The offensive line is playing better, and Mike Evans has been more of a threat in the red zone as well. So there are some positives there, but in terms of looking at the negatives, I understand where all this criticism is coming from. It seems like that this offense is not helping out Tom Brady, okay? And I'm not saying this as some Tom Brady fanboy or something like that. I'm just viewing this as a diehard Bucs fan. These long developing routes, all the deep routes, all these different types of things is not Tom Brady's game. Tom Brady really does like to run a similar style to what's run with the New Orleans Saints. Short passes to the wide receivers and tight ends, also short passes to the running backs and getting those yards after the catch. That is some of the offense that Tom Brady likes to run, in my opinion. And he does take the occasional deep shot from time to time, and when he does, it's usually successful because he sets it up by having a ton of short yardage stuff, and then he gets the deep ball. So overall, that is an offense that is beneficial to Tom Brady. But, Tom Brady, he's playing good in this offense in terms of what his numbers are considered here. 25 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, or I believe it's 28 touchdowns to 11 interceptions now. But, if you were able to, just have the eye test in terms of watching each and every game, you can tell that Tom Brady is struggling with certain things. The deep ball, he's struggling with that to a certain degree. It's not that he's underthrowing guys. If anything, it just seems like the timing is off and the coverage reading is off, according to Bruce Arians in a recent press conference, to paraphrase there. So in terms of things like that, that's been tough. Running backs have been dropping the ball. That has been tough as well. While the offensive line, in my opinion, is better than it was last year, they still do struggle from time to time in certain games. They got completely obliterated in both of those Saints games, and they have struggled against teams like the Rams, among some other teams as well. So it's not all great for Byron Leftwich. The numbers paint one story, whereas, everybody's numbers are looking pretty good, so why would there be a reason to complain? But whenever you look at the overall eye test, whenever you watch this on a game-to-game basis, watch the entire game, you see some of these flaws. The first flaw being what I just mentioned about Tom Brady. Another flaw being that Ronald Jones simply isn't getting the ball enough. And that's not Ronald Jones bias either. He's playing good this year. Like I said, he's going to get 1,000 rushing yards, and that's despite the fact that that he has significantly less carries than other running backs who are also going to get 1,000 yards on the year. He has been insanely efficient running the ball, and unfortunately, the Buccaneers have not given him the ball enough. I mean, it's not a similar situation to what we saw with Dirk Cutter, because that was just completely ridiculous how little they were giving Ronald Jones the ball, but it's not exactly the greatest situation either. He's getting the ball maybe a similar amount, if not a slightly more amount to what we saw last year in Bruce Arians' offense. So that's got to improve. We've got to see Ronald Jones get the ball more, because he is very good running the ball. At pass catching, that's a different story, but running the ball, he's been doing great, and that's something that Byron Leftwich could certainly improve on. Another thing that Byron Leftwich could improve on is rotating more guys in and out of the offense. We need to see more wide receivers and more running backs get opportunities. We have guys like Scotty Miller, Jadon Mickens, Tyler Johnson, who the Buccaneers just drafted in the most recent NFL draft, who you could rotate in to keep guys like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Antonio Brown fresher throughout the game, so they have more juice towards the end of the game in case you have to make a comeback or things like that, or just need to have some clutch plays. You have your best guys who are a little bit fresher, a little bit healthier, because you are rotating more guys in. You have the ability to do that. You have other wide receivers, but instead, we're not seeing a ton of rotation here at the wide receiver core, and especially at the running back core either. It's been a main combination of Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Now, just because these guys aren't getting the ball as much does not mean that they aren't going into the game. It's been mainly Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, however, who have been getting those opportunities. We have LeSean McCoy, who, signed this past offseason, very solid veteran addition. We also have Keyshawn Vaughn, who the Buccaneers drafted in the 3rd round of the most recent NFL draft, who are not playing a single snap. Keyshawn Vaughn has been inactive most games, and they asked Bruce Arians about this, and he said, LeSean McCoy is a solid veteran. It's just about keeping him fresh. And Keyshawn Vaughn, I would love to have all these guys active. Unfortunately, I can't every game. That was a paraphrased answer there. And I do think that Byron Leftwich plays a very key role into this. He can rotate in LeSean McCoy more to be a receiving running back. We have seen LeSean McCoy. He's had, a little bit of some ups and a little bit of some downs during his season here with the Buccaneers early on in the year, but it seems like they just completely gave up on the guy. I mean, he was being used as a receiving back, and then one day they just said, why don't we just not play this guy? Why don't we just throw the ball to Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, which is fine a handful of times, but you have another back that you can get in there and just keep your other running backs fresh. It's very confusing to me, and also Keyshawn Vaughn is a very similar situation. I just feel like if you give more guys opportunities, it will keep everybody healthy and efficient, not just for the remainder of a game that you're playing in, but for future games as well. So wide receiver rotations, running back rotations, even tight end rotations a little bit could be better as well. I know that's a little bit of a trickier situation because O.J. Howard's out for the year. Anthony Auclair has been playing a little bit more. But you could definitely rotate in a guy like Cameron Brate more to help out as a receiving target and things like that, which they have been doing in recent weeks. I do want to say that. So yeah, in terms of all those many different types of things, rotational problems, deep passing, lack of a trust in the run game, all these different types of things have been a problem for Byron Leftwich as an offensive play caller so far this year. Finally, one of the last things that I've been seeing from Byron Leftwich as offensive coordinator and offensive play caller is simply just lack of situational awareness. It seems like defenses can predict Byron Leftwich's offense a lot easier than Byron Leftwich can predict opposing teams' defenses. I mean, he doesn't run the ball in certain situations. He passes the ball in certain situations where it's not necessary. All these different types of things. I mean, he's throwing a deep pass on like 1st down with a minute 40 something left in the game. You don't need to do that. You have a really good running back right there, or you could throw a short pass. These are different things that you could do. And again, I don't claim to be an expert. I will never be an offensive coordinator in my life, but just from a fan's opinion, those are things that you could do to give yourselves better chances in better situations. They're not converting on 3rd down situations as much as they would like to. They're not nearly as efficient enough as they would like to be whenever you compare them to some of the top offenses in the league. And these are problems. These are things that show a lack of experience as an offensive play caller and an offensive coordinator as a whole. So how do we fix this? What do we do? Well, we are currently in the bye week, and I feel like Bruce Arians needs to sit down with Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady and figure this thing out and do more of the things that Tom Brady wants to do. Bruce Arians, by the way, is a very commendable man. He will trust his guys till the absolute end, and that's something that is very respectable. That's what makes him a very good leader. But I would have liked to have seen Bruce Arians take back play calling whenever they signed Tom Brady, simply because Bruce Arians has more NFL knowledge than Byron Leftwich, and he will for a very long time. Bruce Arians has been in the league for years upon years. He's worked with Peyton Manning. He's worked with all these great great quarterbacks like Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, like I just mentioned, among others, who have these same abilities and the same type of offense that they want run that Tom Brady has. So I'm very confused as to why Bruce Arians did not take back over play calling when they signed Tom Brady. I do understand that he does trust Byron Leftwich, but he trusts him to a fault. I feel like Byron Leftwich should not be the offensive play caller for the remainder of this season. I feel like Bruce Arians should have been the play caller, but the sad thing is that it's not going to change. Again, Bruce Arians is going to trust Byron Leftwich with this offense for the remainder of this season. Hands down, I believe that 100%. The fix that I could give here is that Bruce Arians, Byron Leftwich, and Tom Brady all need to sit together and work on some new game plans for the Final Four teams that they're facing, as well as the playoffs. Do more stuff that Tom Brady likes and that he is comfortable with. Don't try and fit a square peg into a round hole, because that's not going to work. And the stubbornness that I've seen from the coaching staff in terms of offensive play calling and things like that has been very frustrating at certain points this year. It has been successful at certain points this year as well, but I feel it's been more frustrating than anything. So we will see what happens, but in my opinion, Bruce Arians should have been the play caller for this season. I feel like he would definitely have more in tune with what Tom Brady would want out of this offense, and things would definitely be more efficient in my opinion. And Ronald Jones would be getting more carries. You'd probably see more rotations at the running back and receiver groups, and just overall, I think things would be better. But guys, leave me your thoughts about this down in the comments section below. Do you think that Byron Leftwich should still be the offensive play caller for the Buccaneers, and how do you feel that he's done as the play caller and offensive coordinator as a whole during this season? But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. I will see you in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.